I think YouTube's going to give me a countdown. Oh, no, it didn't give me a countdown. It just tells me I'm live. So nice to know that I'm live. So if you want to watch on YouTube, you can click the link there in the description. That'll take you to the YouTube feed, but it's the same thing. I mean, you don't have any dancing girls in that one. Just me, folks. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, a couple of disclaimers. First off, some of you are aware that I am going through some health issues right now, and they do kind of leave me in a little bit of chronic pain. Now, I popped a pain pill just before we started this broadcast, so I should be okay for the length of this webinar. Hopefully, I should be okay. But if you see momentary glimpses of where you actually see my eyes pop out of their sockets for a moment, that's why it just happens. Travis, how you doing, dude? Okay. The subject of today is audiobooks, and this, by the way, if for any of you who may have been in attendance at the seminar that I conducted at the public library. Boy, that bothers me. Those glasses are so crooked. This is the same seminar that you saw there, so you're just getting the webinar version of it. The only difference is I don't have back here a huge screen with graphics on it and fancy pictures and stuff like that. All you got is me. Sorry, it's the best I could do. That's the best. That is the best this is the best that I could do here. Why make an audiobook? If you have a book and you got it selling, why make an audiobook? Have you ever been to a grocery store? You went in there and found out they only had one brand or one flavor of ice cream? That would be kind of a waste of time, wouldn't it? Well, maybe not. If it's Rocky Road, I guess that would be okay. But still, you would like a variety, a little bit. But if you go into another grocery store and they have several flavors of ice cream, guess who's going to sell more ice cream? Well, it's the store that has more flavors. That's why you should make an audiobook. Right now, if you have a book and it's in print, that's what you sell. That's it. That's the end of your pipeline right there. But you can also convert it to an ebook. You can also convert it to an audiobook. So you have a couple of ways available to you how you can take the same product and repackage it under another not another brand, but under another setting, and you could actually sell it that way as well. My microphone just went crooked here. I just noticed that. There we go. Got it balanced in this little nest in here, just fine. But you want to make it an audiobook just because of the fact that it's going to increase your revenue, just because there's something extra available. It's without any extra work on your part unless you make the audiobook yourself. Now, this isn't just for authors who have written books who want to turn into audiobooks. If you're wanting to become an audiobook narrator, have patience and bear with me because we're going to be covering some stuff here in a little bit that's going to be applying directly to you. Now, if you're just joining in, I explained this a second ago, but for those of you who may be wondering, occasionally you're going to see the picture getting a little dark like it just did. That's because I'm switching back and forth between two chats, but one here in YouTube, one here in Facebook, because we're doing a simulcast, and I'm going back and forth between the two chat rooms in case somebody asks a question. So if you see the picture dim a little bit, no, I'm not having any problem with my electricity or anything. That's just the nature of the beast here with the screens. Okay, now if we take a look at the individual products, traditional books, these are among my favorite. These things have a proven track record. They're open to a general audience. The best thing about them, no batteries required. You just pick them up, take them anywhere you want to, but you are kind of limited in space. If you are an avid reader and you carry around, like if you go traveling, if you're flying on an airplane, you might want to take several books along with you if you're going on vacation or something like that. That microphone's crooked again. Oh, I hate that. I guess it's my I'm really getting obsessed with that thing. You're going to want to take more than one book, and that may be kind of cumbersome for you. So you may want to take the ebooks, because then it's in this nice little tablet and you can just sit there and hold it. Audiobooks are just another way of doing the same thing, because that's even smaller still, because all you have is the device on which you're listening to it from and a set of headphones, much similar to what I'm wearing now. These are the best quality CVS drugstore has. These are actually not bad headphones. I wouldn't recommend them for use in a studio, but they're pretty comfortable and have a pretty good sound to them. And if you're listening to audiobooks, they're actually a pretty good set of headphones to be using. Now, when did audiobooks really come into being? They started cassette tapes. I was very surprised to find out were invented in 1963, and it was 6 years after that when the Library of Congress kind of jumped on the audio bandwagon, and they began saving audiobooks in the United States Library of Congress. It only took 6 years for that to happen, from the invention of audio cassette tapes up to the time when they actually started recording. So audiobooks have been around for quite a while. Now, by the 1970s, though, the technology for audiobooks really improved, because no longer did they have to record to cassette. They could record to a CD. So now you're getting a much better quality recording, and it's on a disc rather than a cassette tape, and supposedly a little bit more durable. I know there's a lot of argument, a little debate on that. But both of them have one huge disadvantage, and that's they are very bulky when it comes to packaging. Now, I started doing audiobooks a number of years back, and at that time, the only way you could do an audiobook is if you did, in fact, put them on CD or cassette. In either case, you have multiple units of which you're recording to. In other words, if you have a 4-hour book, it's guaranteed you're going to need at least 4 CDs, possibly 5, depending on the format that you're recording in. You're going to have to package them. You're going to have to label them each individually. You're going to have to put them in this kind of a volume type thing. Same thing with cassettes, and that gets very costly. And you've got inventory and all this other fun stuff. But come along in the 1990s, that was simplified even greater by companies who began streaming audiobooks. Now, that's one of the biggest companies, is the one that I record for. And by the way, before we go any further, I am going to be mentioning some companies throughout this webinar. I am going to be mentioning some things that if you do want to start recording, some things that you will more than likely have to go out and buy. Now, let me say something right off the bat here. I am not getting paid a nickel for this. Absolutely none of these companies that I'm going to be talking about is sending me any money whatsoever to do this. So any kind of an endorsement that you hear from me is going to be a genuine endorsement. It's not because somebody's laying money at my feet. Likewise, I'm not making any money off of sales of anything, because anything that I'm going to have you buy or suggest that you may want to get a hold of, I'm going to send you to some other websites, to purchase this stuff. So I will never see a penny off this, or I'll send you to a particular store or something like that. No, so I'm not here for your money or their money. I'm just here for, well, basically for you guys. I just do this as a free service. Now, if you just want to send me money, I've got all these doctor bills racked up. I could certainly use some help with, but no, we're not going to be. I'm not going to be soliciting anything at all. Deb Hockenberry joined in. Peggy Hoy. Oh, Peggy, I've recorded 3 books for Peggy. Bless her heart. I see Joe Harwell. I see a couple of authors that I've recorded for. Joe Harwell's on here. Jim Jordan. And I'm working on one of Jim's books right now, and I've got two more of his books in line to do. Deb Hockenberry, boy, it is nice to see you again. But anyway, the first company that we're going to be talking about is, of course, Audible.com. It's the largest retailer of audiobooks in the world. And it is, like I said, the one that I record for. They have currently, the last time that I saw any kind of account, they're holding like 200,000 audiobooks in stock. That's a lot of audiobooks. And they add like 10,000, is it per day? No, 10,000 audiobooks go into it new each and every year. 39 of those, I'm proud to say, are mine. Also, one other thing about Audible that's really pretty incredible. According to the New York Times, this was not any kind of public relations documentation from Audible. This was written independently in a newspaper. New York Times stated that Audible was considered to be, I'm trying to read this from across the room here, they are the largest employer for actors in New York City, beating out Broadway, off-Broadway, and motion pictures combined. That is a lot of power. So if you have a book that you've written and you're wanting to find a narrator to record that for you, by golly, you certainly have some talent available, but not everybody's going to have access to these fancy schmancy New Yorkers who love to sit in studios and record books and perform them. So you're going to have to get your narrators elsewhere. So how do you do that? Well, you can make post to social media like Facebook, MeWe. MeWe, by the way, is a pretty good social media site if you haven't checked it out, MeWe.com. Just to let people know you'd be interested in making an audiobook and start seeking out narrators. You can let your friends know. You can contact writers groups. And chances are very good, near 100%, that somebody in that writers group has had an audiobook made. Maybe they can steer you onto a pretty good name. Now, I'm going to steer you to another website called ACX.com. Okay, now you spell that ACX.com, just like Abel, Charlie, X-ray, the letters ACX.com. This is a division. ACX and Audible.com, both of those are divisions of Amazon.com. So it's already a company that you're familiar with. And ACX.com serves as kind of I kind of look at it as kind of like a dating agency between authors and narrators. So they're pretty cool. They will match up narrators to authors. And then once they have a contract in place between, like if you find a narrator on ACX.com, and you establish a contract with that narrator, ACX takes over and takes care of the distribution. They distribute the audiobooks through Audible.com. They're also put on Amazon.com and iTunes as well. So they actually do a little bit of the marketing for you. So the marketing alone is great. And if you don't like the idea that you're going to be on those three places, well, God bless you. If you got something better than Amazon, Audible, and iTunes, I mean, Amazon just by itself, it's listed within the top 10 of websites globally. But I mentioned the C word a second ago, contracts. What kind of contracts are we talking, and how much money are we talking about doing to get a narrator to do audiobooks? Believe it or not, you can do this and spend nothing. Believe it or not, if you can find the right narrator, you can do something called a royalty share. They also have a royalty share plus a stipend, and they have a per finished hour. Let's start with the most expensive here, though. The per finished hour, or the PFH, is how they refer to it. This is where, as an author, you set up a fee and you say, I will be willing to spend $200 per finished hour of the recording. The narrator comes along and narrates your book. And if it turns out that book is exactly 2 hours long, then it's at $200 an hour. That means you owe that narrator $400. Okay. Doesn't matter how long it takes them to record it, because all you're paying for is just the finished product. Now, this example that I gave you is kind of it's kind of ridiculous, because I guarantee if you've written a book, it's going to be a lot longer than 2 hours. Short books are like 3 or 4 hours long. The book that I'm working on now is probably going to be over 30 hours long total, because it's a 2-volume set. So that's going to be the king of all the books as far as length is concerned that I'm working on right now. But they can easily be 9, 10, 12 hours long, easily. So if you're going to pay a per finished hour, you could be shelling out some change. Now, the good thing about that, though, is as an author, that means you have complete control of the production. Because, I mean, if you're paying the bill, by golly, you should be able to get what you want. Now, if you're smart, you're going to listen to the narrator, listen to what he or she is saying that they think is going to be best for the way that they record. But at the end of the day, you're paying for the product. You should be able to get what you're wanting, or something has to go with the contract. Okay. The royalty share, however, is where no money changes hands. Absolutely no money whatsoever. You agree upon a particular narrator to produce your audiobook. They record the entire thing, and then you guys share the royalties. You guys just split them right down the middle, 50-50. Whenever you get copies of that audiobook sold, you each get a royalty check from Audible.com. That's pretty cool, and it doesn't cost you a nickel. Now, here's the downside: you sacrifice your ability to have control over the recording. And you notice this control shifts, because now it's the narrator who has taken on the big risk here, because that narrator, he or she, is devoting themselves and their studio to a rather lengthy process of recording this audiobook. Then they have to get it edited and processed and stuff like this. And this can be a rather lengthy proposition. So they're devoting a lot of time to it. So this kind of shifts the creative control almost entirely over to the end of the producer or the narrator. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Now, the royalty share plus a stipend, that's kind of the happy little medium between the two. That's where you do belly up and you do put out some money right up front. You pay the narrator. You say basically, okay, I'm going to pay you like $400, and that's not a bad stipend. That's actually a pretty good idea around in that area. You can negotiate the fee with the individual narrators, but on top of the stipend, they also have the royalty share going on. This, to me, would put the creative control half and half, because each of you, the author has some financial investment in it now. The producer has a pocket full of change because of the stipend, but they're still investing a lot of time in the recording. But because of the financial investment now being shared by the author, well, then by golly, I would think that the creative process should also be shared as well. Now, regardless as to the kind of contract that you get with the narrator, regardless of what you agree to, this is something that I've always done with every author I've ever worked. Anytime we say something, whether we say it on Facebook, maybe they contact me here, maybe they contact me via email, perhaps they contact me by the phone or something like this, whatever we agree on, whatever we talk about, I immediately go to my login page on ACX.com and I send them a private message on ACX reflecting exactly what was agreed to. Or they send me the message. Either way, it doesn't matter. The reason you want to do that is if a dispute should arise, and they have arisen. I've already seen cases where I've been in a couple where a dispute does come up and somebody says, "Hey, I didn't agree to do that," and the other person says, "Oh, yes, you did." Well, you can bring ACX into the picture and they'll review all the messages that were sent back. And if you were smart enough to get this in the messages, and by golly, what you have in their private message will be the final call. And that's exactly how they'll decide that. So it's to your benefit to get everything in writing and get it, and don't ever communicate outside of ACX. And if you do communicate outside of ACX, you go into ACX and you send that person a message anyway. It's just a smart thing to do. ACX will do all the bookkeeping. They take care of all the royalties. They manage the inventory. So outside of the creative process, you and your narrator, really, you don't have to do anything at all. It almost sounds like I'm giving them a sales pitch. And by the way, ACX, from what I understand, is not the only company out there that offers a service like this. It's the only one that I know of. But I've heard tell that there are others out there. Feel free to shop around. I'm not going to try to hornswoggle you into any one particular company. I'm not going to try to talk you into, you have to go with Audible, because there are other companies too that do that. You won't have the reach that they have. So why you'd want to go somewhere else, well, that's entirely up to you. I suppose if you've had bad experience with Amazon, for instance, you may be kind of hesitant because they're all Amazon companies. Amazon, iTunes, and ACX. These are all parts of Amazon. So that would be the only thing. Boy, these glasses just drive me nuts. They're so crooked. Excuse me. But all in all, I've always had a very good experience as far as royalties are concerned. I'm not getting rich, but I can say this: after the first month that I joined ACX as a narrator, I received my first royalty check, and I have received a royalty check each and every month since I started. Okay. Like I said, I'm not getting rich off of this, but you can indeed supplement some income. Now, how ACX will work, you'll as an author, you'll go on and you'll put in your information about your book. You mention the sales. Of course, you'll want to talk about the plot of the book, what the book is about, and you're going to include a sample script for that narrator to look at that and think, I would like to record that book. They download the copy of the script and they make an audition. They ship it off to you, and you say yay or nay whether or not you like this person. And if you don't like them, you just move on to the next narrator. And it's just that simple. Nobody ever takes this stuff personally. I know I don't. But that's just like any other branch of showbiz where you have to audition. But let me tell you something. This audition sword slices both ways. Because even though you're auditioning a narrator, make no mistake about it, That narrator is also auditioning you as well and auditioning your book. That narrator, if he's a smart narrator, he's going to check out any kind of a sales record that book has through Amazon. And by the way, it's a requirement because the companies are all interchanged. In order to use ACX, your book has to be available on Amazon. Well, can't really blame them. I mean, that's all part of the happy little family. But they do have ways of ranking the books in order of sales and things like that. And your narrators, a potential narrator, has the ability to go in and see how your book ranks as far as sales are concerned. And if it's a brand new book or there aren't very many sales, well, there will be some narrators out there who just won't even think about it. There'll be other narrators who will look at it and they'll just judge the book by its cover or by their audition script, and they're going to go with that alone. So, I mean, don't let that throw you, but just understand that audition, that works both ways here, ladies and gentlemen. Auditions never bothered me. I've done auditions all my life, so that's nothing big. Now, let's say you don't want to deal with auditions. Let's say you don't really want to audition narrators because you don't want any narrator to do your book because you would rather do it yourself. Well, that's actually an option. Or if you're listening to this webinar and you don't have a book to record, but you just want to be a narrator, well, this is the part you may want to listen up to. The reason why you may want to be your own narrator, one thing, you'll be able to keep 100% of your royalties. You don't have to split them with anybody. So right off the bat, you've doubled your income just because of that little decision by itself. But believe it or not, the audition process is the same. Now you have to audition yourself because you want to be sure you're the correct choice. I know the popular thought is, well, nobody's going to know this book better than me because I wrote the book. Well, that's true. But this is where you have to take off the ego hat and really give yourself a serious gut check. Because this is a business decision. So you're not going to want to just record it just so you can say, I wrote the book and I'm going to narrate the book. Well, if that's really all you're going to decide it on, then, well, God bless you. And I hope you make a lot of sales, but chances are probably not, I mean, that's the fact of life. Now, to audition yourself, how in the world do you do that objectively? It's not hard. You just simply read out a portion of the book, listen to the recording back. But here's what I would highly recommend. If you're going to audition yourself, record it. Resist the temptation of playing that recording back. Instead, wait 1 week. 1 week. Okay. I remember it was more than a few years ago. I was working in radio and I was being relocated from Colorado to San Francisco. And so I was leaving during the night and I was listening to a radio station the whole way that I was going. And so I just had the radio turned up. And after several hours of driving, I was sitting there listening to this announcer thinking, he's really not that bad, but boy, I tell you, he needs some work. He needs some work being done on. Then it dawned on me, that was me. I was listening to myself. I had forgotten about it. A friend of mine had recorded my last show on the air on cassettes, and I had popped in the cassette. And so when I started the car up, the cassette just started, and I heard a radio station. That's what I thought it was. I didn't really realize it was myself I was listening to. But what had happened was a week had passed by, at least a week, between the time I'd made that recording and the time I was listening to it. And quite frankly, I'd forgotten about it. So if you are going to audition yourself, you don't want to listen to it right away. Let at least a week go by. Because if you listen to it right now, what you're going to hear is you're going to hear how the tape sounds, and you're going to hear the memory of the tape itself. And that memory is going to jade your decision. Excuse me. So you want as much of that memory to be gone as possible. So resist the temptation of listening to yourself right off the bat. Wait 1 week and listen to it, and you're going to be able to come to a little bit better of an objective, objective decision here. Now, not only are you going to have to audition yourself, you're going to have to audition your book as well, because not all books are suitable for audiobooks. Ironically enough, I have published personally a number of books. There's one series of books that I've published. I've published 13 of them. Not a one of them would make a suitable audiobook. ironically enough. Ain't that a kick? Just because of the format of the book, the way it was written, it just would not lend itself to this type of media. So therefore, I don't even try to do that. But I remember one time I was approached to do a book on travel in California, which I thought would have been okay. I'll take a look at that. But they sent me the copy of it. It was a coffee table book, heavily illustrated. That's tough to do on an audiobook. So yeah, we kind of passed that one by. Now here's the big danger of recording yourself. Oh, and you're hearing all the background noises of the apartment. You probably heard the refrigerator come on a little while ago. The heater just came on. Thank God for the heater. It's pretty chilly today here in Tulsa. Now here's another danger about recording yourself. If you've ever been told you have a great voice. When I was in radio, I lost track of how many people I fired who all had great voices. Having a great voice is a wonderful thing. But I got to tell you, thinking you can record an audiobook because you have a great voice makes as much sense as saying I can paint a beautiful picture because I have a great brush. One just doesn't stand to reason. So just because you have a great voice, or somebody said, "Man, you ought to be on radio," or something like that, just doesn't work. It just doesn't even work into the equation, really. I mean, it's nice if you do have a great voice. I'm going to give you two cases in point: Paul Harvey, Casey Kasem. There is no denying the incredible success each one of these men had in broadcasting. And you know, the other thing that they have in common, neither one of them may really have what you would call a sound, deep, resonant radio voice. No. Paul Harvey is kind of a down-home, country boy. He was from here in Oklahoma. Casey Kasem talked from the back of his throat and delivered the top 40. And so neither one of them really had that classic radio voice like Gary Owens or somebody like that. And yet look at their success. So you see, having a great voice does not necessarily lead to having a great career. Excuse me. It is your ability to act, and it is your ability to act well. If you've written a piece of fiction and you have several characters, don't forget you're going to be doing all of those characters. You're the one that's going to be carrying it the whole way. You're not going to have several actors in the room with you. You're responsible for each one of those voices. They all have to be distinct. They all have to be different in order for this to work. So there are a lot of things to consider when you're talking about yourself with making an audiobook. Now, for those of you who have written books, you're familiar with a thing called manuscript mechanics. In other words, it's the format that you have to put your manuscript in to make a publisher want to publish you to begin with, or even read your book. Then you have to format it, or if you're going through a vanity press, you still have to format that book into a certain manuscript, type of manuscript, so they can publish it themselves. But in either case, you are familiar with manuscript mechanics. Well, you got to be familiar with one more now, and that's how to make the book into a script. What should it look like for you? Anything you want it to look like. Myself, I use Verdana. Calibri is the font that I use. I put everything in the font 14, and I space them at 1.5 spaces. Every single audiobook I get, I take the text and I copy it from the PDF file, or I copy it from the Word document that the author sent me. Then I paste it into another document and I follow that format. This way, all of my scripts look exactly alike, and my eyes don't have to get used to a new formatting every time I start recording. It's just a way that I have, makes it a little easier for myself. In lines of fiction, excuse me, I'm going to get a cough drop here. I apologize for that cough. It's a wonderful thing about this time of the year, isn't it? When it comes to fiction, and I have several characters, usually what I will do is I will go through the entire book. Yes, I do read the book first. And I go through, after I formatted the script, the book into script format so I can read it, then I'll go through the book and look for each individual character, and I will highlight each character in their own individual color. That way, like Miss Madison, for instance, may have all of her lines are yellow, highlighted in yellow. Some other character may be all highlighted in green or whatever. But this way, I can tell at a glance who's saying what where without necessarily having to read the accompanying text around it. And then in another document, I have all of those color codes listed as a legend, along with a brief description of the voice that I've chosen for that character. So it helps in a little bit of the organizing, the characterizations, and that way you don't forget. Now, I will tell a story. One time before I started doing that, I got a book from an author. This lady was a first-time author who actually wrote a pretty good book, but she made a few mistakes. One of which I found out by chapter 27. She had a character by the name of, it was some kind of really generic name like Mrs. Smith or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but all of a sudden in chapter 27, I found out that Mrs. Smith, these glasses are driving me nuts. In chapter 27, I found out that Mrs. Smith's maiden name was Senora Gonzalez, and she had a very heavy Hispanic accent. I had to re-record the entire book. Well, that's frustrating. But at the time, because this was a royalty share, I had the complete right of telling the author, gee, I'm sorry about that, but I'm not going to change it now because I've got too much recorded. I could have done that. And I honestly believe to this day that ACX would have stood behind me on that. Because quite frankly, if you do hire retain a narrator, or hire one if you go with the PFH contract, it's incumbent upon you, the author, to provide information to the narrator about all the characters, how you want them to sound, where are they from, what kind of background do they have. That'll all go into how they're performed. If you have a specific way of that you're wanting a certain line read, you need to tell that and communicate that to your narrator. Communication is key in this kind of a relationship, and it's something you should always keep a hold of. So you have to communicate that always. And if there's something you didn't tell that narrator, and the narrator does it wrong, well, you have nobody to blame but yourself on that one. Now, in this particular case, I went ahead and went back. I recorded the whole thing. I made sure the author knew I was doing that because it was really making her book take forever to be finished. But she understood. And actually, she was very apologetic. She said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't, that was stupid of me." Well, that's okay. So I went back and I gave a Hispanic accent to those books. But I digress. Let me go back to the subject we were talking about, where if you want to record them. So let's say you decided that you do have the voice for the book, and you decided your book will make a good audiobook. Okay, now you need the equipment. This is where you start getting into some money. And you'll be happy to know it's not probably as much as you would think. Back in the 80s or even the 90s, if you wanted to start your own small recording studio, you were looking at, $20,000, $30,000 easy without even thinking about it. Nowadays, oh my goodness, with the way technology has come, no, you're not. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Now, I'm a firm believer. If you want quality sound, you're going to have to get some quality stuff. But let's talk about what you're going to need. You're going to need a computer with speakers, obviously. You're going to need a microphone, and I prefer a floor mic stand with a boom arm on it. Some people will use a microphone on a desk stand, but I prefer this right here, where there's a boom arm. I'll explain why here in a little bit. An optional thing would be a mixer. Now, I use a mixer myself, and I'll explain my reason for using a mixer rather than connecting the microphone directly to the computer. You're going to need a set of headphones, and of course, you're going to need all the cables to connect everything. So let's take a look at some of the equipment that you're going to need. First off, let's start with a computer. I personally, Jim Jordan said, "Hey, your glasses are straight, your face is crooked." Well, there could be some truth behind that. Personally, I record using a desktop computer. I prefer the desktop. I also have a laptop computer, but I don't use that to record. But I prefer using a desktop computer. Now, there are some narrators use a laptop, and boy, they love it, and they wouldn't give it up for the world. They just love it. That's everybody for their own self there. So however much you want to spend, I will say this though, my reason for doing it on a desktop computer is if I'm using a laptop computer to record on, and it's my primary source of recording, if something should go wrong with that laptop, well, you're pretty much got to replace the laptop. There's not a whole lot that can be done about a laptop that breaks down other than replace it. There are some things you can do, but not much. At least with a desktop computer, if something goes wrong with a certain part of it, you at least have a fighting chance. You can take that into some place and get it fixed, depending on what's gone wrong with it. So I do it from a matter of maintenance and controllability as far as being able to get things repaired. So, but again, that falls back into personal, desire. For me, it's a desktop computer. You're also going to need, you're also going to need one of these things here, a microphone. Okay, this is where you don't want to chintz on money. Okay, and you can still find, like, this is a studio mic. This is an MXL 990 that I'm using here. It's not even considered one of the higher grade mics. You can buy these for about right at about $100, $125. You can go to musiciansfriend.com, guitarcenter.com, a number of other websites that are available out there that maybe you have a favorite one that you go to. You can also you can go to your favorite music store or your own favorite branch of Guitar Center, and you can get some good advice. But the big thing here, you notice how big it is right here? This is called a large condenser, a large diaphragm. Excuse me. You want a large diaphragm in the microphone that you use. It will be called either a studio mic or it'll say a large diaphragm. That's what you want. If you're using a little handheld mic, well, it's possible you can do it, but your quality is not going to be very good. You're going to want some kind of quality that is going to reproduce well, and a large diaphragm mic, it does the trick. This one, this microphone I happen to love because it was fairly inexpensive. This little thing was extra, but it does come with its own basket mount. I just prefer this basket mount rather than the one that it came with. But the microphone itself, I love it. I've been using this same mic for several years. You don't want to get a little spit guard. This thing here is probably the reason why I've never had to replace the mic, because I've spit enough into this mic to baptize a small person. Over the course of a year, you're going to Sweetwater.com. Thank you, Peggy. Peggy corrected me on this. Sweetwater.com is a good website to use. I know Peggy, she's the one I told you I recorded 3 of her books. Her family also has a gospel music group that's just dynamite, and so they're great on this. Yeah, pop filter. Chris Davis corrected me. This is what it's called, as a pop filter. You can also get pop filters like this that are made of foam. They fit over the head of the mic. Because of the size of the microphone, you put this on there, it just gives it a really cartoonishly big. But they're very good. They're very good to have, and they do protect the microphone. Headphones. Now, these headphones, I was telling you a while ago, they were pretty good quality, but I would never wear these or use these whenever I'm editing my audiobooks. I'll show you what I use. You don't have to get this kind, but whenever I'm editing, this is a Sony MDR 7506 model. These are professional headphones. You know how I know? Because it says so right there. It says professional right there. So I know those are professional, but these are studio phones. You'll see a lot of people in studios using these. These are noise canceling. They're very quiet. So whenever you put these on, if you hear a sound, it's coming from these speakers. These, if you hear a sound, it could be coming from anywhere, and you don't know if it's on your recording or not. These are very good. Now, this is not, I used to use a pair of Shure headphones that were just excellent. I just wanted to change. These sold for about $80. Actually, I got these on Amazon for $70. I think is what I paid for them. So the Sonys are really good, sure. But the thing that you want to look for on headphones, whether you use this brand or not, you want to make sure that they have a hard cup here, and you want to be sure they cover the entire ear. Okay, which this meets that requirement, but there's a big difference. If you were to compare just the cables of this one with the cables of these, you can tell there's a world of quality difference there. Let me hang these back up. But you want to have the acoustic shell covering the entire ear. And again, don't chintz money when you're buying the headphones, because you do want something that's going to be rated for studio use. Now, the mixer. Why in the world would I want to use a mixer? I mean, goodness, all you have to do is plug the microphone into your computer. Well, And you can do that, and a lot of people do. So there's nothing wrong with that. I just like going to. I have a very, very small mixer that I use, a little 3-channel Behringer. They're inexpensive and they're very reliable. Um, but the reason I use the mixer is because it gives you an extra level of control over your sound. Once you plug into just directly the computer, you're stuck with the settings on the computer and you're done. Okay. If you want to change them, you can, but you got to jump through a few computer hoops to do it. If I wanted to change my settings on my microphone because I'm going through a mixer, I'll just reach right over here on my little desktop and I start twisting knobs. So I like the little flexibility it gives me in the final production. Whether or not you use a mixer, that's entirely up to you. Bear in mind, though, if you don't have a powered mixer, if you have a microphone like this, you'll also need to get a power supply for it. So that you might incur a little extra expense there. But even with the power supply, those power supplies are like $30 or $40. They're not terribly bad. Mic cables should be something called XLR. Okay. You want me to spell that for you? There, XLR. And I should have had. I can't believe I didn't pull one out for a visual. But just remember those letters, or if you're going to search for them online, just search for XLR. You'll see what it is. It's a certain type of jack at the end of the cable. You don't have to have those. You can use 1/4-inch jacks if you want. XLRs do tend to be much more reliable. And again, they're not overly expensive. You also need some RCA cables to connect the little small mixer to the computer. Now, if it all fails, if all else fails, you can go to even a box store that sells computers and you can say, hey, I have this kind of microphone with this kind of jack, and I have this kind of computer. What do I need to connect this to that? They will be able to help you with that. And boy, if they're not able to help you, then you need to be shopping somewhere else, because that's pretty basic information. Okay, now I came up with a shopping list. The shopping list consists of a computer with speakers, because I'm assuming if you're going to do this, you're going to have to buy a brand new computer. So I'm going to give you an amount of money that you might be looking at, and this is going to be the absolute highest it's going to be for you, okay? A computer with speakers, microphone, mic stand with a boom arm. Oh, and I said I was going to explain that. The reason why I don't like a microphone on a desk stand as opposed to a microphone that's on a boom arm like this is because if you have it on the desk stand, that just gives you more things you got to move around on the desk. This thing here, I just swing it out of the way whenever I'm finished recording and I'm done. So it's just because I'm lazy. So I do recommend a mic stand with a boom arm. I'm saying, yeah, get the mixer, headphones, XLR cables, and the RCA cables. You're looking for the computer. I'm going to say right $1,100. Yeah, you can spend that much on a computer with speakers. I know you can get them cheaper, but I'm just using this for rounded figures. Microphone, even though I said this one was like about $125. I put down in this estimate about $150. So that's not a bad place to start. Mic stand with a boom arm, they're looking at about $75. Mixer, that little Behringer mixer I was talking about, they're only $39.99. Headphones, at least budget at least $60 for those, at least that. 2 XLR cables at $16.99 a piece. That's $33.98. The RCA cables that I'm talking about, a whopping $5.45. So your grand total to start your whole studio is only costing you $1,462, which compared to the cost of what a studio would have cost you back in the 1990s, that's incredibly cheap, because you'd be looking at about $30,000 back then. You notice I haven't talked to you yet about software. One word: Audacity. There are programs available. GarageBand, I think, is what's one of them called, and you can spend money on them if you want. I don't know why. I've been using Audacity for years, and I love it myself. I've never had any big issues with it. I've always been able to find how to do things on it. Audacity is absolutely free. It's one of the things that are available on the internet. You can go to audacity.org. It's AUDACITY, audacity.org. And there's a download link there. If you want to know how to do something on Facebook, they have a community available for you. They have They have a web form there. But the one thing about Audacity I just absolutely adore is if you're wanting to know how to do something special, I go to YouTube. If there's something about Audacity that I don't know, I'll go to YouTube first before I go anywhere. And I'll type in Audacity 3.0 or whichever version that you'd have. You type that in. And then you type in what you're looking for, like fading out, for instance. If you want to learn how to cut, or if you want to learn how to edit, or you want to learn how to process, put a limiter on, or whatever, you just put that in YouTube, and I guarantee you somebody has made a video about it, and you can actually see how to do it. If you can't do that, go online, Facebook. You can find their communities just by searching for Audacity. Since you're on with me here on Facebook, if you are on my friend list here on Facebook, by golly, contact me. Yeah, I can help steer you in the right way. I'll be happy to help you. And there are not just tons of information available about Audacity and how to do different things. So, and like I said, the price of it is absolutely free. It is easy to use. Deb Hockenberry was saying that it's easy for her to use, and it is. It's not an overly difficult program. And by the way, for those of you wondering, yeah, I'm going through the No Shave November. But there are 4 basic commands for audiobooks that I would recommend that you learn how to do. Compression, equalizer, noise reduction, and normalizer. Those are the 4 commands that I use quite a bit. And if you want more explanation on that, you can contact me individually, and I'll be glad to give you the skinny on how to use those. Or you can just search Audacity noise reduction, for instance, on YouTube, and you can see how to use that. We'll be glad to go over that. That information is so available. I highly recommend using Audacity. You're not out any money, and it's simple to use, and it works on Apple, and it works on IBM. Now, I will say this: if you have an Apple computer, did you know, by the way, that you can't buy 2 of those apples? You can buy 1, but they're not allowed to sell you 2 of them at a time. And the reason for that is because if you go and you buy 1 apple, you're getting a good computer. But if you buy 2, then you got a pair. Sorry. What was I saying? Oh, that was stupid. Anyway, Audacity does work slightly different on an Apple, and if you're having a hard time figuring something out, try to contact somebody who also has an Apple and has Audacity, because they're going to be able to help you more than I will. Somebody was needing some advice on how to do something, and I was telling them, here, click here and drag your mouse over and do this. Only to find out later on they had an Apple and it wasn't the same critter. So just a little word of advice there. You might want to make sure you know which version you're needing, because it'll be on the download page, whether you're wanting it for Apple or for IBM. Okay, let's see. We've covered over the contracts with ACX. Various kind. Okay, marketing. Let's take a little peek at marketing, shall we? Marketing is always fun. You can market online here on Facebook. You can start your own Facebook page for your audiobooks. I've done that myself. You can start an account at MeWe, MEWE, Instagram, and also YouTube. You might want to start a YouTube channel. Here's some marketing you can do that can actually make you some money almost immediately. When I first started recording, ACX was trying to encourage me to use some free download codes that they would provide to me every time I recorded a book. All I have to do is send them an email and say, hey, can I have some download codes? And then give me like 25 download codes that I can just give out like candy. Okay. I just heard something pop. If you guys hear anything funky, please tell me. As I'm looking around to see, I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Okay. Gosh, that scared me. And I lost my train of thought here. Oh yeah, they gave me out all these codes that I could use, and I thought, what? You want me to? I just spent 4 months recording and you want me to give it for free? Give it away for free? What are you, nuts? Well, I found out something. First off, yes, they are nuts, but if you give somebody a download code and that person downloads that book, you still get paid the royalties just as if they had bought it. So by all means, get the download codes, give them away like candy. So that's, but here's something that I did on Facebook, and some of the people that have joined me here in this chat are members of my review board, and I started a review board on Facebook, and it's a private community. If you're not on the review board, even if you're on my friend list, you won't be able to see it. You have to be on the review board in order to see it. Now I limit my review board to 18 people. That way I have some download codes left over. So if I have a book that I would like to have reviewed in like the Tulsa World or some newspaper or something like that, I have some leftover codes that I can still use. But every one of my reviewers on my review board, they get a free download code. So they get a free audiobook out of the deal. And the exchange is they listen to the book and then they go online and they write an honest, and this is something I've always told people in my review board, be honest on your reviews when you write a review for this, because that's all I'm asking you to do is write a review. But be honest about it. Don't say it's a good book if you don't think it's a good book. I've been panned. There have been some things written that I looked at and went, ooh, that hurts. But you know, that comes with the territory. But you want them to be honest, because if somebody else comes looking at that book and they see nothing but beautiful, glaring reports of reviews, well, it kind of seems, to tell you the truth, it kind of seems kind of phony. Almost seems like they were kind of set up. It's your mom and your third cousin writing reviews for you, which is fine to do that. But after a while, it kind of takes away from the credibility on that. So if somebody has, if you've deserved a not so glaring review, then so be it. That's showbiz. But by all means, encourage people to be honest about the reviews. And it takes a while for you to toughen up your skin after a while of seeing some reviews. And quite frankly, you learn a few things when you do that. Now, I've never had anybody get rude or anything. So, and if somebody did get overly rude, I would ignore that, because there's a difference between making an honest review and somebody's just being a jackass. But I highly recommend doing a review board, because when they download that book, you just got paid a royalty. And that's whether they like it or not. Doesn't even matter. And also the downloads and the reviews increase your ratings in Audible, and it kind of moves your book up in the process of where it's a little easier to find. Don't forget to set up press releases. You can do press releases for your local magazines, newspapers, school writing programs, things like that. And people just, the people that are in that business love to have things sent to them like that. Now, if you have any questions at all, I want you to feel free to post the question in there. Chances are I covered it. There are some people who arrived a little late. Chances are pretty good I covered that a little earlier. But if you have any questions, you can post them in here. If I see it later on, I may send you a delayed answer. Of course, you can contact me here on Facebook. If you want to email me something, my email address is bill@wbward.com. Oh, by the way, back to marketing a little bit. Get a website. Mine happens to be wbward.com. Pretty cool, huh? They happen to have a website available with my name on it. So by golly, I clipped that little critter. Go check it out. wbward.com. And I'm not doing that just for the cheap plug, but just to show you, say, hey, here's what I do for mine. You come up with some inspirations on how you can design your own website. Mine works. So for whatever it's worth, give it a look-see. I do have, if you do get your own website, do also like I did and get a real email address, bill@wbward.com. So you got an email address with your actual domain name on it. And the reason you want to do that, it's not vanity. It's like a business card. Because if somebody's wanting to do business with you and you've got a bona fide publisher, somebody up in an ivy tower somewhere, and they're listening to you pitch yourself as an author or a narrator, and you're going down you've already sent your resume or your credit sheet in to show what books you've recorded or other kind of recordings you've made or other kind of books you've written, and they're getting impressed, and they finally go, well, what's your email address? hotlips234@hotmail.com. Well, all of a sudden, the credibility just dives right in the trash can. Get a professional email address. On the internet, it works like a business card. and it kind of takes away from your credibility if you don't have one. So highly recommend that. It's a little extra expense, but in the long run, it's very worth it. Whatever the name is your website, that's what's going to be your email address. And all the providers, GoDaddy, just whoever, they have the ability of doing that for you. So it's really easy to do. Anyway, back to what I was saying, because I pretty well covered everything. Let me scroll back up here through my notes. See, did I get that? Yeah, we talked about that. Talked about the shopping list, how to audition people, how to audition yourself. Websites we covered were audible.com, ACX.com, and then other places where you can buy equipment. If you do want to buy equipment, sweetwater.com, guitarcenter.com. And Amazon. Oh, by the way, one thing about Amazon, don't buy anything from Amazon unless you know exactly what you're looking for. Now, those headphones that I showed you a second ago, I bought those on Amazon. But look elsewhere first, and then you can check Amazon for a specific model. And the reason I'm saying that is because on Amazon, there's a certain amount of buyer beware. And unless you just know what you're looking for and you know what to look for in a product description, it's kind of a good idea to start off somewhere else. And even though I know what I'm looking for and I know what to look for in product descriptions, there are a lot of times, nope, I'm not going to trust, because a lot of times Amazon uses third parties to sell their stuff. And that can be kind of spooky. Go through, like I'll go through guitarcenter.com and I'll find the model number of something that I'm wanting. And then I'll post that into amazon.com and search for that, see if they have the exact same thing. That I might do. But if you don't know what you're looking for, it's tread carefully if you're going to be buying something from Amazon. And I know that pretty well will apply to just about any website. So just be careful. Guard your credit card numbers and all the other fun stuff like that. By the way, on ACX.com, speaking of privacy, they're very good and they're very secured. It is a secured website. One thing, if you do start an account as an author or as a narrator on ACX.com, you're going to notice one thing that they're going to ask you for is your banking information. And that's where you kind of go, that raises my cockles up. Well, and I can understand why you kind of raise a red flag. I've been using ACX, like I said earlier, for years. And I've had my bank account set up through them so that anytime the royalty check comes through, it's just automatically deposited. So I've never seen a check. Now you can choose not to do that. You don't have to do it that way. So when they are asking for banking information, if you want to bypass that, you can. It's not required. And later on, if you change your mind, you want to get direct deposit set up, you can go back in and set it up. It's going to also ask you for some tax information, because guess what, boys and girls? Uncle Sam is going to want theirs. So yeah, got to do that. You're not going to get away from the tax man. What else? That's about all I can think of. So I want to thank you guys here for joining me. I certainly enjoyed it. And like I said, you can contact me at bill@wbward.com or search for me on Facebook at facebook.com/wbward. And